Is the NFL's worst fear about the Minnesota Vikings coming true? What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Siepman, host here at Chat Sports, and on today's show, are the Minnesota Vikings peaking at the right time, and does this have the rest of the NFL scared of what's going on in Minnesota? But before we dive into that, I've seen a ludicrous take thrown out there on Twitter that a lot of Bengals fans and some NFL fans think Jamar Chase is better than Justin Jefferson. If you guys think Justin Jefferson is better than Jamar Chase, and I hope all of you think that way, because you guys probably watch every Vikings game and realize what this man, what coverage he gets every single snap. So if you guys think he's better than Chase, just give me an 18 down below. I'll explain my thoughts on this here in a little bit more in depth. But, all right, before the year, what were we all saying? At least this is what I was saying about the Minnesota Vikings. I was saying, hey, the Vikings got a good team. You got two good tackles. You got two good wide receivers. You got a really good tight end. You picked up Aaron Jones. He's a really good running back. And then you made a ton of great signings in free agency. Van Ginkel, Grenard, Gilmore, Cashman. Pair those guys up with Brian Flores. You got an elite coaching staff. We were all saying it comes down to the quarterback position. Well, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings is playing like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I still think people have the blinders on from before the season, where Vegas had the win total for the Vikings at 6.5 wins. And I feel like people just can't get around the fact that it's like, oh, we all thought the Vikes were coming in fourth in the NFC North. But they can't get around the fact that, like, no, this is one of the better football teams in the NFL. And I even see, this Danny Parkins guy on Fox Sports. He's from Chicago. He's just a typical Bears homer. But if you just go watch, he's on Breakfast Ball. He was talking about the Vikings-Falcons game, and he was like, it was a fluky win for the Vikings. And then he pulled up the stats of the Falcons and Vikes before the fourth quarter. Like, look, man, they were tied at 21. The Falcons had more yards. They had more first downs. It was a fluky win. It's just an idiotic take. Honestly, he's making himself look bad up there. That's why I highly encourage you guys, don't watch Fox Sports. Don't watch these other, big-time media companies, because they just don't know what they're talking about when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. So why is NFL scared? Well, we're going to go through a Super Bowl checklist here on the show. And I think number one, I don't think you need to have a top 10 quarterback in the NFL to necessarily win a Super Bowl, but you need your quarterback to be playing at a top 10 level. And what I mean by that was, when Flacco, when Nick Foles, when they won Super Bowls, were they top 10 quarterbacks in the league? Probably not, specifically Nick Foles. But during that playoff run, us Vikings fans know it, he killed us in the NFC Championship game. Like, they lost because of Nick Foles. So, number one, top 10 quarterback play. And number two, I think you need to have a great coaching staff on both sides of the football. Like, I think what has made the Chiefs so great over the last, 7 years under Mahomes was, one, obviously they had Patrick Mahomes. But two, you necessarily have two head coaches. You got Andy Reid dealing with the offense. You got Spagnuolo dealing with the defense. I think they're one of the better coaching staffs in the National Football League. But besides the Chiefs and Lions, and even the Lions I'm skeptical of, what coaching staff are you taking over the Vikings? Now, I'm going to put the Lions over them just because you got Campbell, a great CEO, Mike Tomlin-esque head coach, and then you also got two great coordinators over there in Detroit. Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, they're two of the best in the National Football League. So, but besides those guys, who are you taking over the Vikings, coaches? And, Kevin O'Connell, only 3 years in, he's got a 31-16 record. And this is not with an elite quarterback. This is with Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, Josh Dobbs, and Jaron Hall. And this man right here is 31-16 so far this season. He has just been truly special. And then defensively, if you guys remember, Brian Flores took over this defense last year. And remember how bad that 2022 unit truly was. This is the team, keep in mind, that went 13-4. So also shout out to Kevin O'Connell. Winning 13 games with this defense. But point being here, Flores took this, the 28th best scoring defense, the 31st best defense in terms of yards per game, pass yards per game, 31st. They allowed 50 touchdowns on the season, and third down conversion percentage was 41.2. It is awful in all of these major statistical categories. But what did Brian Flores do? He turned this unit into one of the better ones in the National Football League in just 2 seasons. Now, number three, I think to win a Super Bowl, you got to have top-tier weapons. And I don't think the Vikings have top-tier weapons. I think they got the best weapons in the National Football League. And it starts with these two. And I don't mean this as a disrespect to anybody else on the Vikings roster here. These two players you see on screen right now are your two best players on your football team. I think after Darrisaw got hurt, I can fully say that. Jefferson, Addison, these are the two best players on your team. And guys, if you guys remember, we were talking about Addison only having like 300 yards through 10 games. He has been on a tear over the last month, and you see these stats. I mean, Jefferson already almost 1,200 yards. Addison's going to go over 1,000. He's got 7 touchdowns. Jefferson's got 7 touchdowns. And, more specifically on Jefferson here, I think Jefferson's the top 5 player in the entire NFL, regardless of position. Obviously you weigh the quarterback position higher than, the wide receiver spot, but I honestly think if I had to power rank my top players in the league, I'm going Mahomes, Josh Allen, probably Joe Burrow, and then I'm probably going Justin Jefferson at that 4 or 5 spot. And, I want to show a couple photos here because I got Bengals fans just talking crazy on Twitter saying, oh, look at Jamar Chase's stats. 1, Jamar Chase has Joe Burrow throwing him the football, and 2, the attention Jefferson gets is unlike any other in the National Football League. This was on Jalen Naylor's touchdown, if you guys remember it from the Bears game. He literally had 3 guys on him on a corner route. And then the other play I want to highlight here, he's running a deep hitch, and he's got 3 dudes on him, left Addison wide open on the sideline. Like, the amount of attention Jefferson gets, not having a top 5 quarterback throwing him the football, and this man has dominated every single receiving record known to man. And if you just look at most receiving yards in the first 5 seasons for a receiver, Jefferson is smoking who's in second, which is Torrey Holt. Shout out to Randy Moss. Hope everything's good with him. He actually just diagnosed with liver cancer, so prayers up to Randy, man. Hopefully he's doing all good. But Jerry Rice, 4. Julio Jones, 5. I mean, these are 5 of the best receivers in National Football League history. And keep in mind, Jefferson, he missed 8 games last season, and we're only, 13 games into this year, and this man already has 7,000 yards in his first 5 seasons. Like, I think, honestly, what the conversations should be, it's not Jefferson or Chase. It's Jefferson. How close is he to being the greatest wide receiver of all time? But I don't even want you guys to pick a receiver here, even though I'm going to ask you guys. Just type 18. I honestly don't need to ask this. Just show Jefferson some love. Jamar's a great talent. He's going to be an all-time great receiver. He could be a top 10 receiver of all time. But I think the guy on our team, I think he might be the best receiver in National Football League history. Now, we'll talk about more here around the Minnesota Vikings in a second. But first off, I want to tell you guys about today's presenting sponsor, and that is PrizePicks. And if you guys download the app today, use code CONS. You guys will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CONS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 200 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Now, if you guys want to add any more juice to maybe Minnesota Wild, Minnesota Timberwolves, or obviously a Minnesota Vikings game, PrizePicks is the best way to do so. If you think Jefferson's going to have more than 88.5 receiving yards this weekend, go on PrizePicks and choose more. But whatever it may be, whatever lineup you want to come up with, you guys have a chance to get $50 instantly after you use promo code CLNS after you create your first $5 lineup. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you put your first $5 lineup. Download the PrizePicks app. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you put your first $5 lineup. But shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks. Run your game. Number 4. Great and close games. And it's so funny. Now, obviously, that 2022 team for the Vikes ended up being frauds, but everybody was saying, oh, all they do is win 1-score games, yada, yada, yada. And then the Chiefs this year, all they do is win 1-score games, and everybody's like, oh, that's, what it takes to be a Super Bowl contender. It's just funny how the media, moves the goalposts there. But shout out to Kevin Seifert for tweeting this out. Kevin O'Connell has the 3rd best winning percentage for 1-score games in NFL history, minimum of 25 games. Guy Chamberlain, who actually coached from 1920 to 27, so if you really want to, count him, sure, but he was 22-7-7. John Madden, the GOAT, was 40-14, and then 3rd on that list is our man Kevin O'Connell. Now, I think late in games, having a great coach obviously is the biggest difference maker in that, and with Kevin O'Connell, how good he is late in these ball games, like, I think that is a Kevin O'Connell stat. That is a Justin Jefferson stat on why the Vikings are so good late. And also, that's a Brian Flores stat. Like, the amount of times teams have had a chance this season to go score on the Vikings defense and potentially win the game, Flores D has definitely shut that down. So, perfect segue right there. Super Bowl checklist. Elite defense is the last one, because if you have a top 10 quarterback, if you have a great coaching staff, if you got great weapons and you're great in close games, the last thing is just have an elite defense. And the Vikings have that in Minnesota. You know, they're second in rush yards per game given up, even though it's been a little dicey as of late, but they're sixth in points per game. You know, yes, teams are throwing the ball on the Vikes, you know, pretty well this season, but I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, them just being down in a lot of these games. And I think it even goes further than that. So, you know, what makes up a really good defense? I think you got to take away the run. That's number one. Vikings are second in that. And I think you need to get to the quarterback. Well, the Vikes, they're actually second in pressures, and they're fourth in sacks with 40 this season. Excuse me, look at that voice crack right there, fellas. But takeaways, they're second in the league. So you stop the run, you get to the quarterback, and you take the football away, put all that in a pot, and you have a Super Bowl defense here in Minnesota. Now, I do want to highlight some negative here. The past 3 games for the Vikings, they've given up a lot of points and a lot of yards compared to what they've done at the beginning of the season, and specifically the rush yards. You give up 154 versus the Cardinals. You give up 158 versus the Falcons. With the Eagles, Lions, Packers having some of the league's best rushing offenses, this is probably my biggest question mark around this football team heading into the remainder of the season. But still, hopefully it's a turnaround game versus, you know, still a good offense. With Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears head into the bank Monday night. Hopefully they turn it around. That's going to be probably my biggest, you know, watching point this Monday night. But, you know, hey, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, talked about a lot on today's video. If you guys watch this whole thing, just give me a skull down below in the comments section. We use this as a real one roll call. And also, I'm on Twitter, handle @PatSeeps. Give me a follow over there. I'll give you guys a follow right back. But thank you guys so much for watching today's show. As always, Skol Vikes.